Right, now I've got the bellows cleaned and I've put some polish through them. They're looking quite good. Now I've got to apply my adhesive, and in the body of the camera I need to get a good layer on that exposed area of the aluminium body where those bellows are going to stick. And that's like a primer layer, if you like, for the adhesive. And likewise on the leather itself, where they're going to glue in, I need another good layer. And I'll spread that out evenly, and that I want to leave to sit, to soak in and form a good layer on that, on those bellows. Once I'm happy with the state of that, once it's fully dried, I'll apply some more adhesive and stick them down in place. I'll be a bit careful here that the adhesive doesn't run down inside the bellows or stick layers of the bellows together where they concertina together. Otherwise it'll bring me grief. That looks fine. I can just leave that to cure now, and in 10 or 15 minutes time I'll be able to come back, apply another layer of adhesive and hopefully glue those down into the body. You can hurry this process up by warming things up with a hairdryer, but I don't feel the need to do that today. That layer of adhesive has had plenty of time to cure now, so I'm going to put another layer onto the bellows here and then just set it in place. I'm being a bit rough here, you could say, because I'm just squeezing this on direct from the tube. A more careful way of applying the adhesive would be to put your adhesive onto a piece of paper and transfer it to the piece you're trying to stick with a toothpick. Making sure I've got an even coat over that. That looks pretty good. And now I've just got to set it in place. Things to watch out for. Make sure that this area of the bellows doesn't cover the corner of the frame. And try and keep it square in the hole. You can check from the back. Make sure the bellows aren't overlapping the aperture here at all. Just trying to make sure that's equidistant top and bottom. And nice and square. Right, well that's fine, that can stay there now, that could stay there unmolested. There's no special need to hold that down with a weight, although that's another alternative. You could put something on top of that. You could put that on there, for example, that's our focus mount. Put a block or something on the top and put a weight on it. And that would make sure that that adhesive was kept nice and was weighed down and sticking all the time. A bit like clamping timber when you're gluing that. But I think in this case we'll be away laughing. I think that looks good to me. And the struts I've got cleaned up, adjusted. I just tried them in that organ donor body that I had there a second ago, and they seem to work quite well. they certainly open and shut nicely, and they were nice and parallel, which is the main thing for us. So that part's done. I've got most of my other loose parts here cleaned. I need to wait and get my parts back from the degreaser so that I can assemble the struts into the body, put the focus mount back in, reassemble the focus mount of course, because it's had the two guides have been removed from it that would normally guide the position of the inner helical. All that's got to be done, but it's looking promising at the moment. What other things have I not taken much notice of? Of course, I've got the focus scale ring here. Now, unusually, of course, this was missing the scale. The screws are lost, so I'll have to find some new screws for that. I've got the scale. I can see the marks where the screw heads had previously been, where this was fixed to the outer helical, and hopefully they'll line back up. Of course, I don't know where the inner and outer helical were aligned because I removed the inner from the outer, complete with the shutter. So I'll be setting up the focus pretty much from scratch, but that shouldn't be too hard. This isn't badly damaged. Sometimes when these have been forced over the tops of the screws on the outer helical, the edge is very damaged. This one doesn't appear too bad. At least that's something going in our favour. The struts are all back in the body and working correctly, so I'm just going to put the coupling in here for the transfer shaft. Apply a bit of grease to the inside, to the outside where it runs through the bush, and just a wee wipe to the outside. That's it, that's coupled up to the shaft, and get the cover in place. Just hold down that shutter release while I get the cover in place. With two small screws. Make sure the prettier of the two of them is at the top because that's the one people can see. And in the lower position you can use the other one, which may or may not be pretty. That stops the transfer shaft from flapping about while the struts are pulled in and out. And the focus mount. Well, I've been working on this. I got the guides back in place and aligned with the inner helical, and so this actually moves smoothly. It took some shuffling backwards and forwards and loosening and tightening these screws until I could get it to that stage. So this now just needs to be lubricated and put back in the camera. Remove that. Now, helpfully, somebody's already scribed lines across here, so I'm quite confident that that's correct. So I'll apply some of this helical grease in about half a dozen spots around the outside. That'll probably do. Just roll that in, work it in. It's nice and smooth. And a little bit around the outside edge at the top here. And somewhere the guideposts go. And the guideposts are marked because they have the hole in them there. and this went this way up. The retainer, need to run a bit of grease around the inside edge of that, where it clamps down against the outer helical. It only fits in one position. Then fit the screws. There are 6 small screws, countersunk head screws. Check that this moves smoothly, that's good. I want to give the adhesive holding the bellows to the body casting plenty of time to cure, so I'm not going to pull the bellows out into the extended position. There's one screw trying to take off for the hills there. I'll track that down in a second. Do up those 6 screws. Check that that still moves freely, that's good. I can pop this focus mount into the front standard. And it's held in place with 4 countersunk head screws, quite large, broad heads on those screws, but they're quite short. One at each corner. Get all 4 in place, then tighten them up. Don't have to go mad tightening those up, they need to be snugged up well. And if I collapse my bellows, I've got 4 screws that hold the bellows to the back of the front standard. They're the black screws. These might take some effort to line up because the bellows are not the original bellows and they're not necessarily pulled into line particularly well. There's the 4th one. It's gone into hiding. It has. I'll have to find that. Let's see if these screws will go in anyway. Yes, that picked up straight away. That one didn't feel too good. That's tightened up fine. That's better. I need to find the 4th screw. I don't know how it got away. That's all done. Let's get our focus scale ring in place. And I've already aligned this with the marks where the screws had been fitted to it earlier. And I've made a scratch alignment marks there to help guide me. Get these 4 screws in position. And of course I want the plate from the front that positions the front of the shutter too. Alright, those screws are in position. Let's get this plate in place. And that's it. That's at the infinity position there. Of course it can't rotate because it's sitting inside the case. I'm not probably going to extend the front at this stage because I don't want to disturb that adhesive, which you can probably do with a good long time to harden up completely. That's good. I can work on the film advance components next. Alright, time to put the film advance shaft back in. So I'll start with the film, the take-up spool and its metal bush. Pop those into the cavity in the body. Here's the advance shaft. I want to lubricate that with a bit of graphite grease because I've found that works particularly well. Pull the spring back, put some grease back up under there, put some on the shaft there. Work that backwards and forwards. Make sure it's all working smoothly. It feels quite good. Just run some into the spring itself. That seems very good. Pop that grease to one side. I don't need that at the moment. And this can drop into place. Now by convention the split in this ring at the base there goes towards the end of the body. It's not especially important where it goes, but generally that's the place it started. 3 screws hold this in place. And it doesn't want to start. Slacken these 2 off, see if we can get it to go now. That's better. Obviously not lined up particularly well. That seems fine. Next I want to put in the catch for the rewind button. It sits in here. Its return spring. And the shoulder screw that holds it in position. Do that screw up tight. And swing the return spring into position. There we go, it's done. Now, the film sprocket, pop that into the casting. bit of synthetic grease on the top, on the gear too, because that's where it couples with the film advance. A bit on the bottom edge. Feed that in from the top. Line up the sprocket. Rotate the shaft to bring the screw into alignment, screw hole into alignment, and fit that screw. Oops, come on out. That's better. And that screw up tight. And I can fit the rewind button. So take the spring, put a bit of grease on it, put the rewind button on there, get its washer. Let's just push the shaft up, pull back that catch, push the shaft up. The shaft's in the up position now. Drop our washer into place. You should be able to screw the button straight into the end of the shaft. That's fine. Screw the button on. Check that it pushes in and catches. Check that it releases. That's good. Just nip that up tight. That's our sprocket shaft in place. Our film advance shaft is in place. So we can put the covers on there. This camera, there's a separate cover here that's to stop the tripod screw being screwed up into the camera too far. And see, it's got quite a pronounced depression in the middle. That just means that someone has screwed the tripod screw up too tight, or the case screw for that matter. Three screws hold this in place. Get those screws up tight. Here's the shield that goes around the rewind button. It's held in place with two flathead brass screws. On some very early examples, they will be countersunk steel screws. That's it. I'll just pull that leather over there so it's not flapping about. I can't glue that back on until I've got the door back in place. Oh, there's a trick for doing that, but I'm not telling you about that one. The rewind knob. Let's lubricate the inner section. Slide that in from the bottom. It's got a little spring on it, a detent spring. Just going to see if that's going to actually go in easily without a fight. It doesn't always. Yes, it is. And there's a screw that goes in here. It's got a reduced shank on the end. Like a set screw. I'll just check that that moves smoothly. Where's my rewind knob? Have I hidden it? Oh, of course, yes, it's all separate because it comes to bits. Where's the screw? That one will do. Just want to check that this actually moves up and down smoothly. It does. That's good. That's all it needs to do. So here is the bush. I'll lubricate that with a bit of synthetic grease. Feed this in from underneath. And this is quite tight, this bush. And the little tab here, let's pull that back slightly so that it'll allow me to get it in place. Pop that on the camera body. And there's two countersunk head screws that hold that in place. Get those up tight and that's done. So the film advanced components here are next.